going to go over an introduction at the beginning of this. We are going to be talking about the best way to set up certain PvP builds and what is best in slot, especially for your weapons and other things, versus group play, abilities like the Coyote's Mask and everything. Some of these builds are also on the PvE one, but they are modified to be used for PvP. For an example, the Armor Regen versus the Armor Regen for PvP versus PvE. Those two differ mainly just because of the backpack. Now, again, there are some people who do not like Lady of Death, but on certain builds it is basically based around that weapon and what the build actually will do. So to get the most damage out, we have to use that specific one. Again, if you find any of my builds on here that you would prefer to not use an SMG and use AR, you can trade them out for a piece of Fenris and crit chance for like Seska. So enjoy. So this is going to be what I call just a piss everybody off, a kind of a almost an unkillable in the DZ. You can still die in the DZ. I just call this one unkillable. It is not unkillable. You can definitely kill the person with this, but you can see it's basically all blue. So we have no crit chance, no crit damage, hardly anything. So Lady of Death is going to be your best thing to go to, because if you can kill an ad, you can also run away, or a player gives you mobility, but you have 1.9 armor. And this is not maxed out for the Armor Regen, but we are also sitting at 80% hazard protection all the way around. 90 on some, but 80 on everything. Now, this build is a melee or just kind of a tank for your team. So if you don't want to die and you're on a manhunt, you can throw this on, or if you've got a lot of status but you still want to move up, you can use this. What you would change here is put this where the gloves are and put on the Wyvern holster, which is DZ exclusive. The claws out, that would give you more melee damage. And then you can put on the booster hive to give you even more melee damage, or you could pretty much just walk right up and slap a player and kill them if they're really weak on armor. I prefer to use the Petrov gloves for the extra damage to armor with the damage to armor on this, but as you can see, here's the melee piece for the Lady of Death. It's just an all-around, it's kind of a fun build when you're bored, truly. But this is the best way to set this up. So you will have one piece of Bellstone for the Armor Regen. We're going to Armor Regen, hazard protection, all armor, everywhere we can go. We are using the Adrenaline Rush to also give us more survivability. Now, again, this build is going to shoot marshmallows. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot unless they have glass cannon like status effects or skilled damages and stuff. We will also be using one piece of Y'all gear for the extra hazard protection, Armor Regen, extra hazard protection, putting hazards protection spots in here as we need it, and unbreakable. So even if we break, we're good. Now, if they were to change explosive resistance to hazard protection on the tardigrade, we'd be throwing tardigrade on in a heartbeat. That way our team has that. Now again, you would change out one piece of this to here and put on the Wyvern holster, the claws out. If you want to melee, if you don't want to melee and you want to do some damage, you can put on the Petrov gloves. Just change these two spots, if you have the same pieces. But again, everywhere, hazard protection, Armor Regen. Now this will sit you, when you max this out, at 4% Armor Regen, 80% hazard to everything. So this is just a straight blue tanky build. We're using the Murakami Industry knee pads for that extra Armor Regen. Now, we also have the Grenadier on, just because we want to have that damage targets out of cover. We can survive at least one explosive and get that 20% extra on burn resistance. I'm going to show you this thing shoots like marshmallows, but you're just mainly using this to melee players. Mainly. Okay? And you see the Armor Regen comes back really, really fast for 4%. at least. And there you go. Marshmallows. Yay, marshmallows. Show you again. Marshmallows. So, damage to armor builds, which is basically your AR type build you'd want in the DZ. You do not need that much crit chance, nor do you need that much crit damage. Your best AR build is going to be around doing the damage to armor. Okay? So, we want to use the Grenadier for that extra damage to targets out of cover. Now, you can use whatever you need here for your team. Okay? But the Capacitor, it cannot be beaten for damage to armor. Okay, even though it has a small magazine size and you're not able to get the in-sync and everything else, it is the strongest. Now, you can use an Eagle Bear, you can use the Bighorn, you can use FAMAS with in-sync, but you just can't beat that damage to armor off this. Now, again, because you have damaged armor, your best backup is going to be the custom M870 Express. Okay? So, with that, you're already going to have all this crit chance and crit damage from the pieces alone. So, we have one piece of Walker here with Vigilance. So, we can do some damage from afar, and if we lose it, we can get it back. But, you can also, and I say this, you can put this on the Technicians because you have this to get an extra skill tier, to get an extra 7.5 in weapon damage. Okay? Now, again, it's a basic damage to armor build. We're using the Petrol gloves for the damage to armor. We're using a piece of Fenris because that's our main weapon. Okay? If you're going to do a shotgun, go with a Badger Tough. But it beats these Grupo holster because of one thing. Even though it's crit damage, I'm going to show you that the damage numbers are still higher with this. So, we're in for 618, and we have, what, the Fenris on. So then we go to this one, the Grupo. 607. We went from 618 to 607. See? There's your proof right there, ladies and gentlemen. Show it again. 618. So, that is going to be your strongest way to build the ARs. Right here. Damage to armor with the name brand of what you're going to be using. Then we have the Overlord knee pads, okay, for the extra damage to targets out of cover. So again, I'm also sitting here with 4 blues. So I could hit higher just by taking the blues off and putting it on. So even when you're using the capacitor, you could even throw on a drone, okay, a drone. And on top of this scope allows you to do the wall glitch as well, just FYI. Now this is a build for door campers, okay? I stress that you should use this against door campers, but if you don't, and you want to use this elseways, that's on you, okay? But I will not hide a build from you. So this one is called Toxicity. Why? Because it's all about the traps. That's it. The devs cannot patch these because they cannot decide where they should land. Some will land on your head and get headshot damage. The traps cannot be set a different way. So because of that, this is a trap build. Hardwire. Okay? We're going for the feedback loop. Yes, it's at 20 seconds, but if you throw the backpack on, as you can see here, the feedback loop drops from 20 to 10 seconds. Now, the reason why we have hazard protection all over this is so that way they can't shut off your shield. So if you find pieces with this hazard protection, it's best. Now, you can see we also have a blue piece down here. Why? Because we don't need all those extra skill tiers. We want some armor on this. Why? Because we also want survivability. Now, we have one piece of y'all, again, for that hazard protection, that extra 20%. We have skill haste here, so we can shorten it down from the 40-second timer to at least 32. The Bellstone is just to give us a little bit of extra survivability with a 1% armor regen. Not like you really need it or anything. You could go with a piece of group or Gilligard there, but same thing. Unbreakable, so you have survivability. The Bulwark Shield is just to help get the cooldown almost instantaneously. Let me demonstrate. Toss it out. Oh, we got players. It hit them, killed them. We just popped our shield, came right back. Now let's turn off the skill haste. Let's see how fast. It's technically on a 32-second timer. The traps. There we go. Delete them. Delete the player. Pop the shield out. Oh, there it is. Throw again. Delete it. Pop it out. Sometimes it glitches. Pop the bag out. Whoop-de-doo. Toss it. There you go. So door campers hate this because you can snap them with this just come out. Pop your shield and then throw your traps right at your own feet. It sticks to them but not you, and they're gone. So again, I prefer to use this against door campers to keep them and teach them a lesson. But again, players will use it as they want. So here's an odd build for you. Now for hazard protection. A lot of people have been asking about using ARs. Well, I have a little tip for you about the new way I've got this thing set up. The Grenadier is going to give us the 20% of status effect from burn that we need. The damage to targets out of cover. As well as we can survive at least one explosive, but we cannot survive the traps if they stick to us, but we can survive the bleed from the traps. So, with this, two weapons you want to have on this build. And again, FAMAS, damage charged out of cover, is going to give you the most damage within sync. Okay, that is a given. Okay, for anybody who plays with ARs. But the Eagle Bear, get the Eagle Bear. It is raid exclusive. The tenacity buff will also stop that added 20% of a player that you kill with the headshot. So if you want to have that extra 20, get your tenacity off, boys and ladies, kids, gentlemen. Just put it on. Okay. If you want to use that versus the FAMAS, go ahead. Have you another type of backup. But we want the crit chance. Why? Because we're sitting at 37 with that 10%. You want the crit chance. So, put on a piece of Seska, put all the crit chance on here as much as you can. The Grenadier is also going to give you 7% here. So rather than having 35, we have 37. Okay, it gives 2% more. As well as the muzzle is going to give us another 5%. So that's how you get your crit chance out. Now, with this, we are going to be using one piece of yaw gear for 20% total hazard protection on the backpack and the piece itself. Vigilance does not go away from the status. It does go away from the damage like a bleed hive, the little hive pieces that hit you, and bullets, but the status effects do not stop vigilance. You can still be on burn, you could still be on bleed, and vigilance will come back as long as you're not taking bullet damage. That's why it says taking damage disables this buff. Statuses are not damaged for some reason in here. Even though they are, they're not. The Grupo chest piece I have here has Unbreakable. We want that survivability. Okay? Adrenaline Rush Intimidate is not best on this. Unbreakable Vigilance is. So, this is how we get more crit damage out to produce higher numbers. Now, you can do the Seska and the Grupo as Walker and Harris to get the multiplicatives out, which would be close to this, maybe a little bit more in damage, but you want the crit chance for your Eagle Bear too, for the headshots. So, because we're doing that, we have a piece of FAMAS here. Now, these two are best in slot on this build, as well as most builds in the DZ, because you get the multiplicatives for all that crit chance. So, we have damage to armor here. For the gloves, I had a god roll with hazard protection, was able to roll armor. So this way I can move armor and weapon damage where I needed. Same with the knee pads. So, let me see. Have I gone over everything with that? Yeah, the knee pads, same thing. They had a god roll, armor. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so this is the AR version. Now on here, you can use whatever you need. Shield, definitely, but decoy or jammer pulse or booster hive to help your teammates out, to shut off their skills. Either one of those three are best with this build, okay? If you don't want them to see where you're coming so you can go get the kill, put a decoy on. You want to stop their skills, jammer pulse. You want to help your teammate out, booster hive. You know, it's situational on that. Heck, you can even do riot foam and stick them into place so you can move around. Or you could even use a fire chem launcher and set them on fire so they can't shoot you. And then hive, yeah. And when we're able to put the this shield on, the striker shield, we'll be putting that on to get an extra 12% damage or 11% damage out as well, versus this one. So that's going to change when the new update comes out. So let's show you the damage. So we're going to set this for veteran as if we're playing against players of about a 1.3 to a 1.5 armor. We're on heroic, as you can see back here, as well as on the top left of my screen. So let's get it close because we're going to try to push up on the players. 471 to 500 on health. Chest is 360 to 4 something on the chest. So 471 on headshots. Now again, if you use the Eagle Bear on this, you get your headshots and you get that kill with it. You see my player just went red. That will also stop those added burns to allow you to get vigilance and keep vigilance going. As long as they're not like hitting you and you're taking damage, you're golden for this. Now, what was it? Now let's set up the SMG version. Okay, let's set this thing up. So rather than the Fenris, we'll put the Grupo on. So now we have 2-piece Sokolov, 1-piece Grupo. Then we'll put the crit damage pieces in. All right, so now that we have this set up, let's make sure. Actually, you know what? No, never mind. Let's use this. The best exotic for this setup is going to be the Lady of Death because you get the most damage out. Now you can use a SIG MPX within sync. You'll get close to about the same, but not the same. So as you can see, we're hitting for what, 529 versus 471. So the SMG one hits harder on the chest shots as well as headshots than the AR version. So just because of the Lady of Death, the SMG version is going to hit way harder than the AR, but the AR will give you long range abilities. So now this here is one of my original builds that I put together. Yes, it is just a standard DPS build, but in the Dark Zone, this build just slaps. Now, let's talk about what to use. The mini gunner, because you will be dishing out a lot of ammo and helping your team out, this here is best on the build. Again, you can go demolitionist to get the extra damage targets out of cover. You can go tactician to do extra damage against their skill proxies. Really, that's about it. As for the build, it's about the pestilence. Now, you can, and I'll say this, you can go and look at Kamikaze Von Dooms, and his pestilence tick is going to do great. Way more than mine. But when it comes down to making sure it hits hard, his hits like marshmallows. Now, as a backup, we're going with the FAMAS. Damage targets out of cover, crit chance everywhere. Okay? Now, anybody who tells you that you don't need crit chance, crit damage because the pestilence doesn't need that, they're shooting marshmallows with their bullets, but they're just going for the tick damage. So we got the Coyote's mask for that extra crit damage, crit chance that we need to help our teammates out or help ourselves out. We're also going with the Seska backpack. And you see, I'm going to go through some of my weapons. I'm going to show you the crit chance and crit damage of them. So we have 44% on the Pestilence, right? And so what, 153 on crit damage. Now, the 44% is to make sure that our bullets crit, okay? Because we want to take out the player as fast as possible, especially if we're shooting them. And then we have the multiplicative of all this of the damage to armor of 19%. So that's going to do the multiplicative of the crit damage. So the more crits we get, the better it gets. So we want 44, okay? That's what you should be at with the Terminator build. You can drop this off and go with a piece of Grupo to get more crit damage. But I've been testing a few other things, and I found that while adding these 2 pieces of Walker, that Seska is vital. So have 1 piece of Seska, 2-piece Walker, so you can get the extra damage to armor out, get the extra weapon damage out. And now, this is player's choice. You can go glass cannon, okay? I do go glass cannon. But you can go with opportunistic on your chest piece, okay? You just got to make sure you continuously shoot, because you can at points like lose it. Then you got to restack it back up. So, again, player's choice, glass cannon or opportunistic. Now, we have a second piece of Walker, same thing, but we have 1 armor core on this. Now, I found that long range shooting with this will allow for you to have just these 2 blues and have enough survivability to take out groups of 3 or 4 players. And I've got videos on this. If you go through some of my PvP builds or videos, you'll see it. And then we have the extra multiplicative of the Overlord knee pads and the Petrov gloves, of course, LMG. So that's where we're getting the extra damage. Now you can drop off the Coyote's mask and say put on the Sawyer knee pads, and it'd be just as good. Or you can even put the blue Petrov gloves here if you wished. They have a little bit more armor, but you do want the 2 blues, as I just showed you right there. Now the pulse is so we can find the players. We can find where their decoys are as well, so we can stack the decoys. And then you have a decoy, so they can't easily find you. So let's show you the damage numbers. Put this to Elite right now and just kind of transfer this stuff over. If I'm right, the Pestilence stick should hit about 1.1 mil. Again, it's not 1.4, but we're also getting bullet damage by having crits on here, the crit chances and everything. So, and you see chest shot, we're hitting for, what was it? About 570,000 on chest shots. You know what, let's redo this. Let's just go full bore. 626. So we're hitting for 626, okay, on chest shots. Headshots, 818. So you can almost hit a player, headshots or gut shots, preferably headshots, at almost 820,000, 819,000 or so. So the difference between this version and the other one is the backpack. That's it. Okay? Because Memento is hard to always keep in the Dark Zone should you die. The best thing to do is Adrenaline Rush Intimidate. Now, again, this is player's choice. I prefer the Grenadier for the extra damage targets out of cover, avoid some status, as well as avoid explosives, at least one every 60 seconds. You can go with a Fireball and get the damage to the armor, or damage out of the shield. You can go with this right here to get armor on kill, keep your ammo going. You can get Technician to do damage to their skill proxies, things like that, as well as if you later on we can move the Banshee Pulse over here. We might be able to use that because we got the status effect from the Golan. If not, you can just put the Gunner on right now, but that's player's choice. So the main weapon, again, with any Armor Regen build is the Lady of Death, because you want to get that kill and you want to move fast. That way they can't hit you and you're just sitting there taking a lot of damage. Plus, it's going to give you the most damage per bullet, period, once you stack it up. Your backup will be the custom M870 Express MCS. Okay, get that version. Now, about the build. The reason that we changed this up and it is all just straight blue is to give us the most survivability, the highest armor regen for the Dark Zone. Now, this is actually sitting about 4.3 in the numbers. So you can, again, take off the Murakami knee pads armor regen here. You'll be at 4% even, and then put on some more crit damage. That is honestly player's choice. Me, I'm not too worried about it. I want to get the most armor regen with the most damage at the same time. That's how I have mine set up. So, as you can see, we have a Gilligard mask. Let's talk about this for a second. Hey, look, in one of my other videos, I had the same. Oh, look, they look the exact same. One's already got crit damage on it, and then I can put a crit damage mod, and then the chill out mask allows for 2. But wait, that's the same damn thing. Go to my chill out mask video, and you'll see, as I tried to explain as a side-by-side comparison, now that I finally got one, chill out mask is garbage. It's just straight hot garbage. Now, because we're mainly using the Lady of Death, we have a piece of Sokolov here, okay? If I were to use a AR, I would put on a piece of Fenris. You will get the same amount of damage, okay? If you also want to do a piece of Fenris, you could even use a Matador, if you have a Matador just like this, and then have all around 5% weapon damage. That's player's choice for both of these weapons. But the Gilligard, or not Gilligard, the Golan Gear Hunter Killer chest piece is best with armor regen and crit damage. Because it's based around armor regen. You get that armor regen for the second piece, so use this. It's the only real way to use it. Again, we have a piece of Bellstone. Now, it's hard to find some pieces, but you want to find those ones that allow you to have the ability to change weapon damage to armor. Okay? Especially for this. That way you can probably, if you don't like all this armor, you could find pieces that you can swap out and get some more damage out if you wanted to. Just like this one, my holster. But in everything, we're throwing in armor regen and crit damage. And I believe, as a matter of fact, after I get done, yeah, we've already talked about the knee pads. So we got a shield and decoy, so they can't find us. Shield to give us some survivability. Since we're all blues, it's going to be a maxed out shield. Decoy, not so much. So I think I found a chest piece, and yes, I did. So like this one right here. If I wanted to, I have some other pieces where I could literally make this an all red one. Is it beneficial to make it all red with armor regen? No. Because your armor regen is so small and so minuscule, even though it'll jump up to almost, and I kid you not, it'll jump up to almost 12% armor regen by the numbers, it still only feels like you're at 4%. Okay? Even though you have the 1% from the Golan, the 1% from the Bellstone, the 1% from the Murakami, and then all this 4925 armor regen, it's not going to feel like a 12% armor regen. It's going to feel like a 4 as the armor goes up. Even though the numbers compared to your armor versus your armor regen is at 12%. So, with this, Lady of Death, yes, it's strong. Again, get a kill, you can move faster. Run away from them, get your armor back. So let's set this up for as close as we can, just so we make sure we have all the blue armor that we need. And, yep, okay. Matter of fact, yeah. Yeah, let's set it for 5. Alright, so we stack up our Lady of Death. Running in the corner. 396. Now again, this is all blue, so 396 is fairly decent. Fairly. It's not great. Again, we're hitting 505 on the headshot. So again, Find you some pieces that you can roll the armor off and put the weapon damage if you want to increase this. But I wanted to show you all this is all blue so you can see that you can just keep going up in the numbers. So here is my pistol build. Now again, we're using the Technician for the skill tier and also damage to their armor on their skills. The main weapon is going to be your Liberty. You can use whatever you want here on your primary weapon. I prefer now to use a Shield Splinter just because it has a little bit more of total damage and it has a little bit faster reload speed than this FAMAS. Now this FAMAS is good, don't get me wrong, the FAMAS is always good, but you see it's 2.2 in reload speed. That reload speed can actually matter in a gunfight. It truly can. Plus it has a little bit more damage than the FAMAS. So I prefer the Shield Splinter now. You don't have to, you can run FAMAS or whatever else. My backup weapon is a shotgun, but again, the main one is a pistol. So the two that I really prefer is a shotgun and the pistol because you're going to be close range with most of these players who like to get up close and personal. So again, we've got the Coyote's Mask. We have one piece of Seska, crit chance, crit damage, and vigilance. Now, I would like to find an armor one where I can take the weapon damage off and put the armor on here so I can be even more tanky. I've been searching for it, not so well, but again, this is what you're looking for. Now, it does not have to be in this spot. You can put a Seska right here where I have my Douglas and Harding. If you have a chest like this, weapon damage, crit chance, crit damage, and unbreakable. Now, the unbreakable is going to give us barely right now almost about 700k in armor back when our armor cracks. Maybe a little bit less than that. The Petrov gloves, because we want that multiplicative of the damage to armor. And we want the Grupo for that extra crit hit damage. Crit chance, crit damage, everywhere you can get. And then we have the Overlord knee pads. Now, I have 3 armor cores on here right now. The 3 armor cores, I would like to get this to a 5 armor core and see how it does. But again, the main reason we're using Liberty is because of this talent right here. Hits will grant 2% weapon damage and stacks up to 30% or 30 times. That's 60% weapon damage extra. Now in the Dark Zone, that's not a whole lot, but it can really stack up. So a lot of people ask for what my numbers are. So this is my numbers on the on my AR. The shotgun, these are the numbers for crit chance, crit damage here. If you want to pause it, you can look at that. And then the pistol, we have almost 50, I think 168 and 125. So we get all that crit damage and the crit chance on those headshots. Now, the idea is not to always hit the headshots with this. It's mainly just to repair your shield. But those headshots will, I mean, they're going to be super amplified. So if you can hit those headshots, that's why I can 3-tap players. Now, the armor on my shield is almost 10 million. Again, most players in the Dark Zone will hit for a max, even on AR or DPS builds, almost 11 million in DPS. So that shield plus your armor will give you the survivability. That way you can negate that. And the big shield will also stop their headshot damage that they can gain onto you. So like I was saying, in the Tactician, you're going to get that +1 skill tier, and I believe I think it's up here at the top somewhere. Oh yeah, skill tier, there it is. Damage to drones, skill proxies, and robotics. So basically you get 12% more damage on their shield. So if you don't hit that headshot, you're doing 12% more damage to their shield. That's another bonus to using this Technician. Now, I'm going to go ahead and set this up. I'm going to show you just some shots in here. We're going to go to gameplay after. And you see we're barely hitting for almost 700 right there. Sometimes it crits for 2.3. So 2.3 is our base minimum crit damage, and 700 is roughly just regular bullets with damage. Now, again, if you stack this up right here, you're going to get 60% more damage out of your pistol. Now, you shoot that headshot, it's going to recharge your shield to almost full. You only need about 10 shots to stack it back to full, even in the Dark Zone. But you see, just a regular headshot, we're hitting for 3.2 million. In the DZ, it's 33%. So 3.2 million, you're almost hitting for 1 million a headshot. Now, most players have 1.5 to 1.7 in armor in the DZ. So if they only have that, I'm able to 2-tap them. If I miss, I hit their shield. I damage their shield for almost 1,000,000 as well, because it's going to crit every time on that shield. So I'm hitting for them for almost 1,000,000 on the shield each time. So 4 bullets, their shield's gone at max. And that's the reason why this build, I know everybody wants to say this is meta and that's meta. This is actually strong. So, explosive resistance. Let's talk about this for a second. This build will not stop the traps. There is no way to stop the traps, but it will stop mortars, okay? So we're going to use the Grenadier. You have to use the Grenadier. That's the way you can survive one explosive round. That's the main key about this. Lady of Death is so if you do get a kill, you can run away from other players after you've gotten the mortar, or you can, and I'll state this, you can use this in a Fenris, where you can get the long range on him. But remember, most of these players that do that, you're going to be sitting underneath and behind cover. So your job is to rush up on them and kill them. So you want the Lady of Death. So because of that, we got 2-piece Sokolov. We have 1-piece Seska and 1-piece Grupo to get the most damage that we can out of the build. So find pieces like this that you can roll armor, because you want the armor. You want as much armor as you can. Now, you also don't want to hurt yourself, so have at least 2 reds. Minimum 2 reds. But we're using the Adrenaline Rush to give us that extra blue. Now, that right there is your saving grace from some status as well as the mortar. Because if you can get close to the players that are over there where the mortar's at, you can have some survivability. Now, with this, the Seska, I have Unbreakable. Now, the reason why we're doing Unbreakable and Adrenaline Rush, again, is the survivability. Because you will stop, or you'll be able to survive 1 round. With the Explosive Resistance, you won't take as much damage from the other rounds. But with this build, if he's able to hit you with 4 rounds, you will die still. So you got to get there as fast as possible and do as much damage as close as possible. So we have Grupo here. We have the Petrov gloves for the extra damage to armor. And we also have a piece on the bottom, which is the Overlord knee pads with explosive resistance and armor on it. Now, you can trade these out for the Sawyer knee pads, but I'll show you that later, okay? You can see explosive resistance, 70%. So we will never be at 100%, although we'd like to be. But again, even with this right here, we will still be sitting at 70% because it gives you explosive resistance. But the cool part about this is the stagger resistance. You won't be able to be staggered by his mortar. So even if you get hit, you can still rush up on him. And if you're sitting in a corner or running in a corner, you can stack it up. So let's show you. You see, we're just running. We have the normal, what do you call it? Overlord knee pads. So we status affected, shut off his mortar, or we shut off his traps. We're running, we're stacking up, we're getting close to him, you know, and then see, 429. So we're running, we're trying to catch him. Boom. You know, we're that close. Now, let's show you the Sawyer knee pads trick. Okay? Now, with the Sawyer knee pads, player comes out on you, right? So, he's got his stuff set up. You're going to jam or pulse, try to get rid of the mortar. It's not going to last long. So, you run up, you get the kill, okay. But you don't have a whole lot set up except for the Sawyer's knee pads because you were standing still. But while you're sitting there waiting, you can also run in a corner like that and it'll stack up. So let's wait for it to cool down and then we'll show you. So we're running in a corner, we're stacking up Lady Death. We're also stacking up the Sawyer knee pads. Even though the Sawyer knee pads need you to stay still and not move, we're still technically standing still and not moving because we're in a corner. We haven't moved from the corner. You stack it up and you get even more damage. Because you got 30% more. Yay! So last but not least, we have a Spotter Vigilance build. Now, with this, we must use the Technician. The reason for the technician is because of the little side rail piece that we can put on the AR. Okay, this gives you instant spotter on the player that you're shooting at or aimed at. Secondly is the pulse. The pulse right here, though it has a long duration, you can still pulse out and help your teammates out, okay, for players that are nearby. Now, you can also go with a decoy because you have that on your weapon, but I would still suggest using the regular pulse. Now, this build is made for range. So if you can see, we have Ranger on our FAL. Now, the FAL just hits so hard, and being such a long range, typically type build, we want to get that heavy damage out of the weapons. So you want to go with the strongest one, and the most accurately and strong one of all of them is the FAL. Now, should a player push up on you, there's only one SMG that allows you to have the sight rail on the side, at least that I know of. There may be another one out there, but this one here just shoots super fast to drop them. So get the Vector 45, okay? Now, again, I have not seen any other ones. There may be like the UMP or something like that. I don't know, but I just know that the Vector 45 is going to do the best. Now, because we showed you the DTA, if you want to go back and view it, go to my DTA build. We explain why DTA is best with the ARs and how much more damage you will get versus crit chance and crit damage. So, put on 2-piece Walker and 1-piece Fenris. Get your spotter vigilance out that way. Okay? So, that way you have 5% more weapon damage and the extra 5% damage to armor versus the crit chance and the crit damage. Now, also, if you want to, even with any of these builds that I'm giving you, because this is the last build on this clip, any of these builds that I'm giving you, you can change out the Seska and Grupo if you're using the Fenris for the ARs. Put it that way, but make sure you have a lot of crit chance and crit damage. And if you're going to play from afar, make sure you have the Coyotes mask so you can get more crit chance out. And if they get close, you can get more crit damage out. And you see we have health damage here, and that's sitting at 21. That's on the AR. And then we have the damage to armor of 19. So after we shred their armor, we're basically shredding the player's health to where they're just gone. Now again, this is best with Ranger. Now, this one still does kick, even though it's very accurate, and I'm still trying to learn the controls of this weapon. So if this goes bouncing all over the place, forgive me. I'm sorry. This is probably not going to be a great demonstration. So, yep, there it goes. It just kicks for me sometimes. But anyways, you're going to play from afar. That way you can spot more people, because as long as they're within the reticle, the big circle you see right here for your scope, as long as they're within inside that, they will be pulsed. Okay? It does not have to be that you're aiming straight on them. As long as they're within that circle, you'll pulse them. So the farther you are away, the better. But just so you can see some high damage numbers, we put this for, what, 10? So that's about mid-range, but it's still close enough to get the crit damage. So here's the crit damage numbers right here. What was it, 808? Yeah, let's put it a little bit farther away and get the both, the crit chance and the crit damage. Let's put it at 15. 815. Oh, we got more crit chance out, so we can hit more crit damage as well. 838 was on the health. We had 7 something on there, so there you go, gentlemen. Okay, so this is my Pyrotechnic. Now, we've explained in a previous video why this here is stronger and stuff. And yes, the one I'm going to show you later, it'll do more damage. You don't get the vial proc, but again, I haven't really changed much to this one. As you can see, yes, I do have a few of them with the glass cannon and the creeping death. These set of gloves, I've got skill tier. I've changed this back for a different part of the build, but you can change, if you can find one, you can change it to armor or something. But everything you see here, skill damage, status effect. Skill damage, status effect. We do need a third piece of Empress because of the skill efficiency, which also gives you status effects and stuff. As you can see here, the burn, it's maxed out, so that's where you see for PvP damage. Let's just, you know, I've already got this on the different video, so let's just go ahead and show you. Let's set this up for 15 meters and 15 meters so we can keep the burn going. As you can see, the capacitor is going to give us the extra damage to armor as well as the damage to health, so we don't lose out on a whole lot. You can see the burn, just the standard burn differences right here. So that's the typical one you see. So what I'm about to do is I'm going to switch to a few pieces. I've got this one with status effects. I'm going to change out the knee pads for some Golan to get some extra status effect and skill damage. And as you can see, we have all the same. We have the one extra core from the Technician, so we didn't trade anything. So here is the backpack with the Wyvern, and this is the Creeping Death. And let's see what the damage numbers are different, because now that we've added the Golan rather than using the Biomask. Oh, that's a lot more. It is like 711 is the max, versus I think it's like 640, 650 or something like that. Is what I said or showed. Yeah, we're hitting for almost 711, I think. So what we're going to do is now we're going to take off the Creeping Death. We're going to see if we can get this even higher. Now, you can use Shock and Awe, which is really good, because all you have to do is do a status effect and you get that bonus. You can use Combined Arm, but you have to remember it's only going to be 3 seconds, versus using Shock and Awe. As soon as you do a status effect, you're going to get that extra damage. So this is better. Yeah, you can get 5% more from the Combined Arms, or even I think it's 25% as well for tech support, killing an enemy with that, and you get to keep it for like 20 seconds. So you'll get 5% more, but you got to remember, if you don't get the kill on that with the skill, you don't get anything. And then the other one only lasts for 3 seconds. So this is your better shot. So let's see what we're doing for numbers there. Oh yeah, there it is. There's my 711. Yeah, I knew one of them had it. Oh, even more this time because we got Shock and Awe. Yeah, look at that. Now that we have the extra damage out there, you can see that the Shock and Awe jumps it up to that much. We can use a capacitor and max this out. And let's show you what the capacitor does when we max out the stacks to get that extra damage. Let's see what we can hit here. Make sure we got Shock and Awe. We'll do it one more time just to make sure we got the max numbers and we got everything on there. 1079. 1 mil in numbers. So I want y'all to realize that you don't have to run Creeping Death, especially for those players who are using the DZ. But I'm also going to show you this. A lot of people get this confused when I was saying in one of my videos, having this as a backup weapon. Because see, I can status effect right here, and then I get the kill with the SMG, and you saw it kind of pop up on the side. If not, you can slow it down. And you see it's right there on the side of my SMG. That's because I got the kill with the SMG. But if I were to, say, status effect the enemy and just let them die by status effect, I wouldn't get that proc for my teammates. Now that's an extra way, especially in the dark zone, to give them the extra crit damage. As you can see, I'm going to let them die by status effect. And see on the side of my SMG, nothing, not a thing. So you still have to kill them with the weapon. So honestly, the best thing in your inventory is something with perpetuation. The better one, which comes back only 4 seconds faster, is the Everlasting Gaze, which is down here. All it takes is one headshot you don't even have to just kill them with a headshot. You just got to hit them with a headshot. So you hit them with a headshot, and you automatically get that buff, and then boom. As you can see right there, it's like instantaneous. Just one shot, and you get a lot more damage. So you don't even have to stack capacitor. You don't have to do anything. Just hit them one time in the head, and boom. There it is again. Status effect. Yep. So this one here is going to hit a little bit harder in the dark zone.
Hot, 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 hot.